All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to make a formula so we don't have to do that process every single time. We're going to use that process to make a formula one time for any quadratic with a, b, and c as their real number values. And so we can just input them into the formula and get the answer in a more straightforward way. Okay? All right. So we're going to pretend like we're doing the same thing that we just did with those last couple of problems, but this time we're doing it with a, b, and c representing the real numbers. Okay? So the first thing I would do is I would subtract c from both sides, right? So we get ax squared plus bx, and I'm going to leave room to complete the square here, equals negative c, right? So then I would factor out an a. So what I'm going to do is put an a out here. Remember, if I factor out a, I'm dividing by a, so it's b over ax. Okay. All right, so then I know what goes in here is going to be half of this, right? Squared. Okay. So let's just take half of b over a. So b over a divided by 2, same as b over a times a half, which equals b over 2a. Okay, then I want to square that. All right, now if I add that to one side, I'm going to do the same thing to the other. So I'm going to add b over 2a squared, but remember that we did multiply by a, right? It's not just this that we added, but it's a times that we added to the left side. So we're going to multiply this by a out here, okay? All right, so now we've done enough to complete the square. So I'm going to rewrite this as a, and then I'm going to put it like this. So I'm going to have an x here, right? Remember the square root of this, okay? And then the square root of this. So it's going to be a plus b over 2a, because the square root, these cancel out, right? All right, and then on the other side I still have this kind of big mess here. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide everything by a. These cancel out, these cancel out. So then I end up with x plus b over 2a quantity squared equals negative c over a plus b over 2a quantity squared. All right, so now I'm going to take, let me actually simplify the right a little bit more. Okay, so let's get a common denominator and make that into one fraction. So let's make this negative, let's square b over 2a, so that'll be b squared, or 4a squared, right? If I square this whole thing. And so I want to get c to have a common denominator, so I'm going to multiply by 2a, or excuse me, 4a on top and bottom. Okay, so then I'll have negative 4ac over 4a squared plus b squared over 4a squared. So I can combine those together to be, I'm going to put the b squared first because it's positive, b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared, okay? All right, and so now going to take the square root of both sides. Okay, so I get x plus b over 2a equals the square root here, so the numerator, b squared minus 4ac, that can't really be simplified, right? But on the bottom, the square root of 4a squared, the square root of 4 is 2, square root of a squared is a, right? And then one thing that I forgot here is there should be a plus or minus, right? So I'm going to put a plus or minus here. All right, so now I'm going to subtract. To get x by itself, I want to subtract b over 2a okay, and so I'm going to have to come over here, ran out of real estate. Oh, maybe I can come this way. Okay, so then I have x all by itself now, and then I'm going to put the negative b over 2a in the front, plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So since we have a common denominator, we can make that x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And that's the quadratic formula, okay? So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, and so if we know a, b, and c, we can just plug them into this formula, and the formula will do the work for us, right? We can just use our calculators or just evaluate it from there. All right, well done. So a lot of work to get there, but now that we did the front end work, now it's going to be pretty straightforward to solve quadratics from here.